Welcome to the In Love with PMDD podcast. I am your host, Dr. Rose, your PMDD Relationship Psychotraumatologist, and I help you stop the monthly PMDD breakups. PMDD is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It is in approximately 1 in 5 women, and it makes you want to break up with your partner approximately 1 to 2 weeks before your period every single month. So as someone who has suffered with PMDD for over 18 years, I dedicated my doctorate practice to helping partners navigate those monthly PMDD breakups with everything from attachment styles, triggers, sensitivity to noise, sensitivity to touch, all of the things that you really struggle with when you're in PMDD. And I also dedicated my dissertation to a phenomenological study of the relationship experiences of partners of individuals who suffer with premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So I'm not just here to help the sufferer, the one who is suffering with PMDD. I am here for the partners as well. So if you need those private sessions, make sure you go to inlovewithpmdd.com and get those tools. So let's get into this week's PMDD Trauma Transformational Tools that is going to help you stop the monthly breakups and stop the suffering and stress in your PMDD relationship. Let's get into it. Today, we are going to be talking about it's not my fault, it is yours. I'm talking specifically about this when we get in arguments with our PMDD partner and we immediately go into being defensive. I know so many times when our partner criticizes us and they say that we've done things, our immediate way of defending ourselves is to talk about the things that they have done. This has happened so many times in my relationship where when there's a lot of things that have come up during PMDD and I really, talked about, hey, I don't like this thing or this part doesn't work for me. And my partner has come in reaction to that and says, well, what about you? What about what you did? And it really triggers me because when you go into that defense mode, they start attacking you. Your partner starts attacking you because they feel attacked. So I want you to really understand that the reason why your partner is responding in a way that is defensive is because they feel that they are being attacked and they need to protect themselves because they feel like I'm not the only one doing things wrong in this relationship. And so I need to start to attack you by pointing off all of the things that you're not doing correctly in the PMDD relationship because the burden of being criticized feels so heavy and your partner just wants to get rid of that heaviness by redirecting it into something that you have done because then it's a shared heaviness. It's the equivalent of like holding a big bag of something and then when you dump half of it on your partner, you feel like, okay, I can handle minimal criticism, but I'm not going to sit into this place where I'm being told that I'm doing the wrong thing, demonizing a person to where they're feeling like I'm the poor victim and everything that you're doing is the problem. And so you're the bad person. You're the bad guy. I told you with my partner, that's always the phrase. And it's always like, oh, I guess I'm doing everything wrong. I guess I'm just the bad guy. And then they're in this constant space of not wanting to feel, because no one wants to feel like the bad guy. No one wants to feel like they're the only ones that's doing something wrong in the relationship. And so they want to have a shared burden. So when you get into that defensive mode, I want you to recognize when you're in it, number one, because it's normally after you have told your partner something that they have done wrong. When you feel like you're in it, it's because your partner has told you something that they feel like, I think you should do more of this. And then you start to think, well, what have you done? Right? It's kind of like, okay, if we're going to bring up faults and we're going to bring up things that the other person has done wrong, what are you doing to make this relationship better? And so if you think to yourself, have you ever gone into that defensive mode after your PMDD partner has criticized you? You can literally feel the walls going up and all you want to do is shift your focus away from the remark that the person has made, the remark that has criticized you. You want to take the attention off of what you've done wrong and put it on all of the things that you've been holding in that your partner has done wrong. So this is a lot of times where My partner calls it shotgun blasting everything. And it means you've held in all of these triggers that you've had about your PMDD partner. And now you feel like, oh, you want to talk about things that are going wrong. I have a whole laundry list of things that you've done wrong. And you decide to list out every bad thing that they've done wrong in the relationship that you have been holding in. So this may be of when you're in your follicular days and you're like, you know what? I don't want to talk about anything that's going to damage the relationship. I don't want to, make things awkward. I don't want to have these hard conversations. So I'm just going to ignore it. But what happens is you're not really ignoring it. You're just holding it in for it to come out at a later time. And this is why if you've been following me on Instagram at In Love with PMDD, then I've been telling you day after day after day that me and my partner have been going through so many things after this last trip that we've been through for the holidays. And we had to talk about a lot of things that we had been holding in. And not I have been holding in, specifically my partner, because from talking to him, what he thought he was doing the right thing by holding things in, not talking about things, not bringing things up, not ruining the mood, not causing an argument. Because at the end of the day, when you get into these arguments, there's always this, I don't want to be the person that caused the argument, right? So like, you don't want to be the person that made the record scratch and brought up something and caused you all to get into an argument. So you kind of want it to be the other person. You may have underlying things that you have an issue with, but you would rather the other person bring up their issues than you bring up your issues first, because then you will forever be known as the person you're the one that started this argument. And a lot of times what's more comfortable for the other person is for you to bring it up, because then they can say, oh, I'm not the one that brought it up. You're the one that started this argument, when in reality, you both had an issue. It's just a matter of who started the conversation to deal with one of the issues. But the burden of feeling like you're the one that brought up the issue causes the person to shut down and to just be like, you know what? I have all this stuff going on, but I'm not going to be the one to start it. So now you have days and days and days and months and months and months and weeks and weeks and weeks of holding in issues that you genuinely have with your PMDD partner, but you're not wanting to be the one to say it because you don't want to be blamed for it later on. And this is very common where PMDD partners think that they're doing the right thing. They think, oh, my partner's in PMDD. They're already dealing with so much. I don't want to trigger them, because the reactions that happen when we're talking about PMDD are way more exasperated than when we're in our good days. So it's kind of like, if I genuinely have an issue with my partner and I'm in PMDD, maybe I don't want to bring it up because I know that it could potentially cause PMDD rage, intrusive thoughts. Maybe I'm not thinking clearly. Maybe I'm going to have brain fog where I'm not going to be able to remember all the details of the argument. So then it's going to make me feel even more crazy, which is what I don't want to portray to my partner. So I'm in an effort to avoid all of this, I'm just going to hold everything in. And what holding everything in does is it makes, when you do explode into PMDD rage, even larger. It makes it so big because it's not just about one thing, but your partner may not know that. They may think, if you're talking to me about one thing, I know a big thing for me and my partner is being late. And this is something that we discussed in detail over the last couple of days, because he's here for the holidays. So my PMDD partner is here, and we've had an opportunity to discuss all of the things. And it has been, oh my gosh, it's been like an emotional roller coaster, like so bad and then so good and then back to being so bad again. And that's what it looks like a lot of times when you kind of piecemeal a lot of the issues that you have. It's kind of like you only have so much time in a day to talk about all of the issues that you have. So this is why I strongly suggest that you join my PMDD Partner support group, so that you're getting the tools that you can use for yourself to be able to have the tools. And then when an issue comes up, you know how to deal with it, or book a private session with me on a weekly basis. So my monthly PMDD Partner support package, where you're able to go over, okay, this is what I had going on during my week. What do I do about it? So now we're dealing with issues on a weekly basis versus dealing with all of these issues that are piled up on top of each other. And we're in a position where our partner is coming back with a pile of things. We have a pile of things, and it's too overwhelming. It is too overwhelming to deal with all of the issues at one time. But if we're dealing with them one or two things at a time that happen during the week, it's way more manageable. You're less likely to get triggered into PMDD rage if you're dealing with one or two things. But when your partner starts to say all of these things, you almost look back on your relationship and you're thinking, is this what you were thinking the whole time? So what happened with me and my PMDD partner is he did that. He was holding in a lot of things. He got really defensive. And then when I brought up my one or two things that I had to deal with, and then when I brought up my one or two things, the response was there was like 24. I remember writing them down. There was like 24 things that my PMDD partner had an issue with in our relationship. And I was like, what? And I got so immediately defensive to kind of, say, hey, well, with one of these things that, you took it this way, but this is what I really meant. But when it got to the point of, if you think about it, 24 things, like even if you're being defensive, that's a lot. So what ended up happening is I was like, you know what? I can't defend myself on 24 things. I can defend myself on one or two things and say, hey, this is just a misunderstanding. This is what really happened. Because a lot of times what it is you're perceiving that your partner is thinking a certain way. You're perceiving that your partner is feeling a certain way, and then you're reacting accordingly. So whenever you feel like your PMDD partner is acting really weird, like they're acting different, they're acting out of character, it's probably because they're thinking that you're thinking a certain way, or they're feeling that your actions mean a certain thing. So one of the things that my PMDD partner said was, when I came to the airport and you were late, I took that as, you don't care about me. Like, screw me. I guess you don't really care because you're showing up late. Okay, so I got really defensive about that because the reason why I was late was because I was doing all of the things on my to-do list. I have so many things going on, and me picking him up 10, 15 minutes late from the airport did not mean that I didn't care about him, did not mean that I didn't love him and I wasn't excited for him to come. But what it did mean was I had a lot of things on my plate that I was trying to handle for him because I was trying to do it before he got there. So I was trying to make sure I had all of these things handled. But the way he perceived it was, oh, she's late. So that must mean she doesn't love me. She doesn't care about me. I'm not important to her. Everything else is important to her. So I got really defensive because I felt like my character wasn't questioned. So he felt really defensive because when I brought up something that had to do with the relationship, like, hey, I think we need to work on this, then all of a sudden he brings up, oh, you were late. So like, what about you? You don't care about this relationship because you were late. And I was like, what? And then it was accompanied by 23 other things. And that comes from a lot of PMDD partners do this. And a lot of my private clients do this. They think, oh, I just should not bring it up. I shouldn't bring it up because, it's just going to cause a problem. So I feel like I'm doing the right thing by taking the high road and not mentioning everything that's going on in my mind, when in reality, it's really causing more damage because the issues are eventually going to come up. They're not going to go away. So by you choosing to not deal with them in the moment, they don't completely go away. They just get bigger and bigger over time because then you start to see things that are aligned with that, criticism that you have about your partner. So when my partner felt criticized or felt defensive about me being late, then when I was late every other time, it was just reinforcing. See, she's not even on time for this. She's not even on time for this. She's not even on time for this. And so it spirals into this story that you begin to tell yourself about your PMDD partner. And then when you get into PMDD and you're dealing with these intrusive thoughts, in combination with feeling defensive, like I'm defending myself and now I'm looking for other ways to defend myself. So once you've begun the process of defending yourself, everything that you're seeing is in alignment with that defense. So let's first define what it means to be defensive. Defensiveness describes ways in which we react to our PMDD partner after they criticize us. It is a coping mechanism that happens immediately after we're being criticized. As soon as we're being criticized, our defense mechanism is to immediately get defensive, which means I need to talk about something that you did to take the focus off of me and put it on your PMDD partner. So as opposed to listening to the criticism, when someone is defensive, they shift the focus away from the criticism by criticizing back or giving someone the silent treatment. So instead of dealing with the conflict or the criticism that you're receiving, defensiveness shows up as a way of protecting yourself because you feel like now your PMDD partner is the enemy and you need to protect yourself against your PMDD partner. So everyone has felt defensive before. It's completely, it's a normal reaction to being criticized, right? Because when you immediately become criticized, a lot of times you may be, it catches you off guard. So you begin to think, oh my goodness, like you're attacking me. What can I do against this attack? So the first thing you feel like you can do is to talk about the other person. However, in the long run, defensiveness really can block us from connecting to our PMDD partner and growing. We're not listening to the other person and saying, like, oh, my PMDD partner said this about me. Maybe this is something that I should work on. I know for me, as soon as my PMDD partner starts to criticize me about being late, and talk about all of the times that I'm late, it doesn't make me want to be on time because I feel like you're now the enemy. I need to defend myself. Like maybe you should just not care that I'm on time all the time. Or maybe what was my defensiveness? Oh, I said, I have a lot of things going on and you're not helping me with any of these things that I have going on. So how can you criticize me for doing something that you're not even helping me with? You should be happy that, I showed up at the time that I did. And so I began to go into this laundry list of things that I may have underlying bitterness and resentment towards. And so we go into this circle of my partner's defensive, I'm defensive, and we go back and forth, and we're not really looking at what it is that our partner is really criticizing us about. It's like constructive criticism is different from blaming. So when you start blaming a person for something, that's not constructive criticism. If you're genuinely saying you're wrong because you're late, that's not saying, hey, babe, I really appreciate that you picked me up from the airport. It really means a lot to me that you're on time. Is there any way that you can possibly, work on that? Because this is how I feel when you're late. And that's a conversation that we had later on after I wasn't triggered and being defensive is I really asked my partner, what does it mean to you? Why does it matter? And I encourage you to do this. Whenever your partner criticizes you for things that you've done, ask them, why does it matter? This is so powerful because it really helps your partner understand, or you understand, why it's such a big deal. Because a lot of times things that matter to our PMDD partner may not specifically matter to us because we're not the same people. We don't have the same experiences. I know a lot of things for me. If you tell me you're going to do something, you don't do it. It's very triggering for me because I grew up with childhood trauma of parents that did that. And so it makes me put you in that category of, you don't really love me. You're selfish. You think everything's all about you. When in reality, the person could just, have a lot of things on their plate. And so we need to really understand. And I asked my partner this, what does it mean to you when I'm late? What is the big deal? Because this is, especially when you see a reoccurrence of your PMDD partner complaining about things over a month's time, like months and months and months, they're complaining about the same thing. It means something to them that probably it doesn't mean to you, and it probably has a deeper meaning. And so when I asked my PMDD partner that, he said, it means because when you're late, it's showing me that you don't care about me. That's how it feels. And then I feel like if you're on time, then you're making me a priority and I'm really important to you. So now that I have that deeper understanding of why it is so important for him to have me be there on time, then I can look at it completely differently, and I won't get so defensive, because then I'm like, okay, so he just wants me to show up on time to prove to him that he is a priority. In reality, my PMDD partner is a priority. And I was thinking that I was making him a priority by making sure I got everything done before he came, but he wasn't receiving that. And here's the thing. If your partner is not receiving the actions that you're giving, they don't really matter. They don't genuinely matter. There's been so many times where I have exhausted myself doing things that didn't mean anything to my PMDD partner. It's kind of like, yeah, they were grateful, but that's not what they really needed in the moment. So I want to encourage you to not burn yourself out on doing things for your PMDD partner, and it's not what they genuinely want. And the only reason to know, or the only way to know what it is that they really want, is to have those conversations. And so the reason why defensiveness is so damaging is because it really can result in anxiety and poor assertiveness, meaning you have really, really bad anxiety about your partner blaming you for anything, and you have poor assertiveness, meaning you don't have the ability to apply yourself enough in the relationship to just talk about what you're feeling when you're feeling it. Right? There's this inner dialogue that you're going through. It's like, oh, I'm feeling this. I shouldn't say it. Maybe I shouldn't say it. Is it too big? Is it too small? Like you're rationalizing in your mind why you shouldn't bring up the issues that genuinely bother you. And so when things come up, you get immediately defensive. And sometimes defensiveness can reflect in guilt or shame, that a person wants to keep hidden. You want to keep hidden all of the faults that you have, right? When your partner has called you out on something that you have done when you're in PMDD rage, you immediately want to defend yourself, because that's the ugly part of yourself. That's the ugly side of yourself that you don't really want to come to terms with. So your way of coping with that is to get defensive. And in reality, we can all be defensive because none of our PMDD partners are perfect. We're not perfect. Our PMDD partners aren't perfect. So we're consistently doing things that allow the other person to get defensive, because they always have something that they can bring up, right? There's always something that you haven't done right. And there's always something that your PMDD partner hasn't done right. So when you get criticized, you always have something to say, oh, but you did this, but you did this. And these are things that, maybe even in your follicular days, it may not even bother you that they do them. But as soon as you feel attacked, you feel like that's the first thing that you can use against them, so that you don't feel that burden and that heaviness. And so overall, defensiveness stems from fear or insecurity. Fear of being judged, insecurity about not meeting up to your PMDD partner's standards. Fear from being judged means I'm doing the best that I can, but my partner is judging me. They're judging me on me doing, like, my best is not good enough. And that feeling is so low and so horrible, because it feels like no matter what you do, your PMDD partner is still going to judge you. And this leads to breakups. So when I'm talking to you about defensiveness, this is one of the things that lead to PMDD partner breakups. You're always getting defensive because you're always holding things in, because you have this fear of being judged. And the insecurity comes from you just not being good enough, or you feeling like you're not good enough for your PMDD partner, and they're calling you out on it, which is a horrible feeling, because you love the person. You want to be there for the person. And when you feel unjustly accused, you feel like your partner is accusing you of things that you haven't really done just to save face, then your partner starts to fish for excuses or play the innocent victim. All of this is so that your PMDD partner can back off. You get defensive so your partner can back off. Your partner gets defensive so that you can back off. And the strategy is almost never successful, because the excuses that we tell our partner it doesn't make them take our concerns seriously. So if I'm getting defensive and I'm saying, well, what about you? And you did this and you did this. My partner is now not taking anything that I'm telling them seriously. They're thinking that I'm only doing it as a counterattack. So if I have genuine issues with my PMDD partner, but I'm just bringing them up only on the times that I feel that I'm being criticized, then that means they're not going to take them personally, because they're going to say, you're just saying that because I just called you out on something. Like they're not going to take it seriously and be like, oh, maybe I should really reflect on that. And maybe I should really change that because it'll help the relationship. So you're actually discrediting everything that you're saying when you're getting defensive, because your partner is not listening. They're not receiving what it is that you're saying when you're defensive. Like, no, they're thinking you're just trying to like protect yourself. Right? And so I'm going to give you an example of what this has been like with a private client of mine so that you can kind of, hear what defensiveness sounds like. So here's an example. Did you call, Robert and let's call her Rebecca, Robert and Rebecca, to let them know that we're not coming tonight for dinner as we promised this morning? Like you promised that you were going to tell them that we're not coming to dinner. Did you call them? And then the defensive response is, I was too busy today. As a matter of fact, you know just how busy my schedule was. Why didn't you just do it yourself? So instead of her admitting to the fact that she did not do as she promised that morning and say that they weren't coming for dinner tonight, instead of just saying, oh no, babe, I'm sorry, I forgot to call them, she decided to have a defensive response and start making excuses. Number one, I was too busy today. And as a matter of fact, you know how busy I was. Why didn't you just do it? So now you're putting the fault of what you failed to do on your PMDD partner, right? You're putting that response on them. You're saying not only am I not at fault, but you're at fault because you could have done it yourself. So this partner not only responds defensively, but they reverse the blame in an attempt to make it the other person's fault. Instead of a non-defensive response would be to express responsibility. I was supposed to call to cancel dinner. I didn't do it. It was to say, this is an example. Oops, I forgot. I should have asked you this morning to do it because I knew my day was going to be packed. That's my fault. Let me call them right now. So if the response was that, it was taking responsibility for your actions and then responding in a way that's saying, you know what, I'm going to make up for it by doing this. And I know how bad that feels because you never want to feel like you're a failure in your PMDD partnership. You never want to feel like you let your partner down. But in some instances, we do forget a lot of things, especially when you have PMDD brain fog and you're stressed, you're overwhelmed, and your PMDD partner may forget things because they have things that are going on in their day. And the response should be that they actually take responsibility and say, you know what, it was my bad. I was wrong for that. You don't know how powerful that is to really take responsibility for your actions when your partner calls you out on something and not get defensive, because then there's nothing else to argue about. Like you spend a lot of your times arguing about who's wrong. But when you get to that point of you're just saying like, you know what? You're right. I should have done that and I didn't do it. And I'm sorry. When my partner talked to me about being late, he said, the least you can do is when I get in the vehicle and you're late to pick me up from the airport is acknowledge that you were late. That would let me know that you actually cared. And I wouldn't be feeling like, I'm just going to show up because I want to show up. Instead of me making excuses for why I'm late, for him to get in the car and say, you know what, babe, I'm really, really sorry that I'm late. These are the things that I had going on. I'll try better next time. I'm sorry. That would make him feel a lot better than him getting into the car and me just acting like I could care less that I'm late. You should be lucky that I'm here at all. So if someone is defensive, that defensiveness gives them the illusion of control. it makes them feel like they're not the ones that's being criticized and blamed. They have control over the situation. But if we're constantly defensive and deflecting criticism or blame, how are we going to grow closer to our PMDD partner? Because we're now creating them as the enemy. Like now we feel like you're coming for me, you're attacking me. Now you're the problem. We're creating this wall in between us and our PMDD partners by being, defensive. So I'm going to talk to you about the 3 common types of defensiveness. And if you feel like this is something that you've been dealing with, like if I explain these things to you, and this is something that you feel like you've been dealing with, if you become a member of my PMDD Partner support group, I am going to be going over ways to combat all of these reasons of why you're defensive and the things that you can do about them. Like there's ways to counter this. There's ways for this to not become a habit. And I want to provide that for you. So go to the link, www.inlovewithpmdd.com, and you'll see the symbol on the top on the menu that says PMDD Partner Support Group. So what I'm going to be doing for all of, beginning of 2023, beginning in this year, is to take every lesson that I'm teaching you in the podcast, and we're going to be going in depth with it within the PMDD Partner Support Group to be giving you those tools that you can really, really use. So what I'm going to be utilizing the podcast for is to identifying some of the things that can be damaging for your PMDD relationship. And then I'm going to be giving you the tools within the PMDD Partner Support Group, because it needs to be pretty much in depth. You're going to be provided with workbooks and all of these things that are really, really helping you identify specifically, like how I do with my private clients. I don't make it so generalized to where it's like, oh, this is a problem. What do I do about it? I want to talk about things that are specifically going on in your relationship. And if you're seeing yourself in this and you know that defensiveness is a thing that you're actually dealing with, then go to my website, sign up for the PMDD Partner Support Group. It's going to be released in the month of January for defensiveness, and you can just click on it and you're going to get the direct tools on what you can do about it. So let's talk about the 3 common types of defensiveness. And the first one is the ad hominem attack. So these are attacks on your partner's personal character or history. This is the biggest one for me that I feel defensive about. This is what shows up in my relationship every single time. Every single time that we deal with defensiveness, I feel an attack on my character, and that's immediately when I've gone into PMDD rage. This is immediately when I get a lot of bitterness and resentment, because I'm fine with you talking about my behaviors. If you're talking about things that I've done, I'm easily able to take it, responsibility for it. But when you start to call me names as a result of what you're thinking in your mind about me, when I feel like my character is in question, that is when I immediately get defensive. I can no longer address the behavior because I'm so busy trying to defend my character. So, for example, with the example that I gave you in this episode, when my partner says, oh, you're late, I have an issue with you being late, I'm fine with that. You're talking about my behavior. I'm late. I have a lot of stuff on my plate. That rhymes. But I have no issue with you addressing that as my partner. When you start to say the next phrase that my PMDD partner said, you don't care about me, you don't love me, I'm not important to you, that's when I get defensive, because now that's a problem. Now you're thinking that my actions reflect that my character is different. Like, I don't care about you, I don't love you, when I know that I do. So because my character is in question, I'm going to get in defense mode, and I'm going to start defending myself and saying, you know what? You don't think that, I care about you. You don't think. Then I start to go into this rabbit hole of, oh, if you don't think that I care about you, then why are you even with me? Why are you with a person that doesn't care about you? Like, that's crazy. Now I'm getting into the breakup mode. This is the gateway for the breakups. Right? So you see how it happened? Immediately started with a criticism. My partner said, I'm criticizing you because you're late. You're late. You're always late. I can't believe you're late. Da, 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 da. That's the first step. The next step is I'm defending myself because the next phrase is, you don't care about me. You don't love me. That's why you're late. So now you're attacking my character. And so my response to that is, no, I really had things going on, but I'm not saying it in a loving way because you've attacked my character. I'm not saying, oh, I'm sorry, babe. I really had a lot going on. I'm really sorry that I'm late. What I'm saying is, I do care about you. I do love you. This is why I had a lot of stuff going on. You're not even helping me with everything that I have going on. So why are you attacking me for being late when you're not even doing anything to help me? What are you doing? What are you doing to take something off of my plate? This is me getting defensive. It's like, how dare you complain about me being late when you're not helping me with anything that I have going on? So that's my level of defensiveness. Why? Because you've attacked my character. So this is the first way that you can express defensiveness to your PMDD partner. The second way is the silent treatment. I have done this so many times where your partner has criticized you for something and they really said, like, for example, if my PMDD partner says, you know what, you're always late, gets in the car and complains to me that you're late, you don't care about me, da, da, da. And instead of me responding with a counter attack, I give this, I'm offended, right? I'm getting defensive, but instead of verbalizing it, I'm giving the silent treatment. So the silent treatment is when silence is used to punish someone and make them feel hurt. So now I'm being silent to punish my PMDD partner, to hurt them, because now you've offended me. I've become defensive and I know you want to interact with me, but instead of interacting with you and giving you the attention that you're desiring right now, I'm going to punish you by saying nothing. And so what this does is it hurts your PMDD partner and it makes them continue to try to say things to get your attention and you're just not giving in. You're just like, you know what? If that's how you feel, like, right? Like, you're like, I'm not even going to argue with you. If that's what you think about me, okay. And then they're like, no, well, they're wanting you to defend yourself at this point because they're wanting some kind of reaction out of you. And you're like, oh, that's what you feel about me? Okay. If that's how you feel, good luck with that. And then it leaves them in a very crippling position because now they're not getting the reaction that they wanted and they're getting this form of resistance. And they're like, well, no, I just said this because of this. And it's like, oh, no. It's fine. If that's what you think, like, I'm good with that. And it punishes them. It makes them feel hurt. And all of it stemmed from you being defensive. So the third way is so common, and that is bringing up the past. What this looks like is you're bringing up something that your PMDD partner did in the past to use it against them. And instead of dealing with the criticism or issue at hand, what you're doing is saying, oh, I did this. Well, what about what you did before? Right? So in the example that we're using in this episode, when my PMDD partner says, oh, you're late. You're late to pick me up from the airport. And I start to bring up something that they did in the past. And I said, well, I asked you to help me with this thing. Why didn't you help me? Maybe if you would have helped me, I wouldn't have been late. So now I'm deflecting. I'm taking the blame off of myself and I'm putting it back on you. So now you're feeling guilty. Like, man, maybe if I would have done this, like they would have been on time for the airport. So now the thing that I'm criticizing them for, I'm feeling bad about. And that's the goal. When you're getting defensive is to make the other person feel bad about what they're criticizing you about and putting the blame on them instead of the blame on you. So now you feel good. It's a reverse tactic and it's very common. And it's a lot of times the things that we do it's subconscious. It's the immediate way of responding. So what I want you to remember the most is that Defensiveness is a completely normal reaction to receiving criticism. So if you're listening to this and you're feeling like your partner has gotten defensive or you've gotten defensive, it's a normal reaction to being criticized, but it can prevent you from getting closer to your PMDD partner and getting the things that you want. So ultimately what my PMDD partner wanted was for me to be on time. You're not going to get that now because you've criticized me and now I'm defensive and now I don't even feel like I need to go forth effort to do the thing that you're wanting me to do. It's almost giving me permission to continue to do the thing that you don't want me to do. So to strengthen your PMDD relationship, you're going to have to implement different strategies to feel less defensive. And I'm going to go all into that in the PMDD Partner Support Group about what you can really do about this. But I want you to use this episode to really identify, is this something that is happening in my PMDD relationship? And if it is, it's something that you need to get help for. So go to www.inlovewithpmdd.com/groups, or you can just go to the main page of the website and you'll see PMDD Partner Support Group and just click on defensiveness. And you're going to be able to get all of the tools that are going to actually help you not only identify whether you have this going on in your PMDD relationship, but give you tools to resolve it so that it doesn't keep going on. This is going to be something that you can watch by yourself, something that you can watch with your partner, something that you can watch again and again and again whenever you're dealing with defensiveness in your PMDD relationship, so that you don't blow up your partner, so that you don't have defensiveness lead to the monthly breakups, because that is what this will do. This will start off as defensiveness, and then it'll lead into, you know what, I don't need this. And then now you're in a breakup, and then now you're having to repair that damage. Whether it's healing within yourself, regretting the breakup altogether, it's going to hurt you. It's going to hurt your PMDD partner. So go into the PMDD Partner Support Group, get the tools for this if this is something that you are struggling with in your PMDD relationship. We got this. I hope this PMDD episode helped you and your partner in your struggles within your relationship. And if this is something that you know that you need help with and you need further support, individualized support, make sure you're going to inlovewithpmdd.com and you're getting those private sessions to really work through what you're going through in your relationship, specifically in regards to PMDD. And also, I want you to leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. What this does is it helps other PMDD sufferers and partners find this show that can help them get these free PMDD relationship tools. I remember what it felt like to not know that there were tools out there specifically for PMDD relationships. So I want to make sure that you are sharing these tools with others, share them on your social media, share them with people that you know that are also struggling in their PMDD relationships. Until next episode, this is Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist. One more thing, I almost forgot. I now have the Fresh Start PMDD Partners workbook. What this workbook can do is, if you've had past traumatic experiences with your partner, past fights, past arguments, and they keep coming up every single month in PMDD, I created a Fresh Start workbook so that you can deal with all of the traumatic experiences that have happened in the past in PMDD rage and all of these things, so you can stop going through the same cycle again and again and again. So get that workbook. It comes with a video episode of the actual podcast that I recorded on getting a fresh start in your PMDD relationship, so you're not continuing the same cycle again and again and again. So make sure that you get that workbook. And if you need those individualized counseling sessions, you know where to go, inlovewithpmdd.com. Until next time, we got this. Love you.